Listeners, let me take you back to an old story, one that many of us have heard but perhaps never thought about deeply. There's a tale of a kingdom where a queen, despite being overshadowed by a male dominated court, silently strategized and led her people to victory not through war but through wisdom and resilience. This isn't just one story, this is the legacy of Shakti, embodied by women leaders across time. And today we are going to dive into this profound wisdom and much more. Welcome to We Are Listening, the podcast where we bridge the gap between wellness seekers and providers, enabling natural healing and self awareness. I'm your host, Pulkit Garg, and today we have with us Gitika Bhatia, someone who beautifully intertwines mythology, history, and leadership in a way that makes it relatable to our modern world. Gitika, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Pulkit. Lovely to be here.
You know, I would love to really understand your journey being from the corporate world, but also keeping a tap on our mythology, history, and its relevance in today's world. What got you into this field and how have you been navigating it?
Um, okay, that's a bit on the personal side, but so it the credit goes to my dad, right? I've always been an ambitious and professional, woman who has started her own company, worked with many brands both in India as well as across the border. But it was all from the side of karma, right? The spectrum of dharma, mythology, spirituality was never there. Obviously, as someone who's brought up in India as middle class family, religious Hindu family, you would always be God fearing, right? So you would do the vrats, you would do the Durga Puja, the Navratri, the Mannate, if the Kasme and all of those. So while all of those things were there, but there was never a connection with the God, with the Supreme or the Divine. That understanding was not there. It was until COVID, my dad, was diagnosed with cancer, and it was an extremely bad timing for the entire family, but in a way a silver lining that all of us were together because our dear prime minister put us all together. So that was good. So during those journeys, so it was, there was chemo, there was a lot of things happening, and he was an extremely into astrology, spirituality, and all of those things. So our entire intent and focus was that how to keep him alive, how to keep him happy, distracted from all the treatment and everything. That's when the journey began. That's when we started watching serials as a family together, starting from Devogadev Mahadev to Radha Krishna. You name the deity, and I've watched a serial of that. And since obviously we wanted to spend time together, wanted to be with him, just not, turn on TV and let him be there. So that's how it started for him. But eventually it sort of like grasped me to the way that, it became my own, right? So the entire credit goes to him. He was the seed, but which, I believe has now taken the shape of a tree. But yeah, that's how the journey began. And rest is history.
I am sorry to hear about your father, giving more power to him and to the family. Gitika, help me understand. Now, you talked about dharma and karma as, part of the starting introduction. These were the words we only hear in the TV serials today, which even depict what used to happen ages back.
Yep.
The meaning of dharma or karma, nobody talks about it today. Nobody probably gives a damn about it. We have to put it in that
Yep.
man. People are like, I just want so much zeros added to my bank account, and
Hmm.
that's my only and ultimate goal. I don't
Hmm.
care about what's my dharma. I don't care about what karma I'm doing.
Hmm.
मेरे को खाली अपने बैंक अकाउंट में पैसा चाहिए.
Hmm. Yep.
Ready to go whatever extreme way possible. And so what exactly happens about dharma and karma आज के टाइम में कहाँ है, and do we still practice it? Are there people who still go forward with it except the spiritual leaders? because
Hmm.
I have interviewed so many experts on the show. They, yes, do talk about dharma and karma, but for them it also becomes part of their profession
Hmm.
in a
Yep.
manner. With all due
Hmm.
respect to their beliefs, but preaching that or practicing that has become part of their profession. I'm not
Hmm.
sure if it's coming as an innate practice out there. So
Hmm.
what exactly is happening in today's time?
Yep. So Pulkit, while these terms are coming from different yugs, the epics and everything, but I believe that each yug has its own meaning, right? It could be probably different during the Ram Rajya or Pandavas and Kauravas, but today what it means is that dharma is nothing but a social order, right? Your moral compass, how it guides you, right? So you have certain set of, so to take a very nominal example, that I want to wake up at 6 every day. I want to do, I want to then spend first hour with myself. Then I want to I also do intermittent fasting. So I want to complete until that hour, I indulge in either reading, meditation, or something. And then I prefer to spend time with all the loved ones that I have. I prefer to, each and every day uh, give something to my mind, both on the creative side as well as on the learning and professional side. I also like to read. I like to watch a lot of serials, right? So all of this is sort of like a pattern during my day. That's my dharma. Right. So that's sort of like my nature of reality. That's how I operate. It's sort of like a pattern of my way of living. Now, obviously, for different people, the definition of dharma could be different, but it's what keeps them disciplined, what keeps them aligned to their end purpose of where they want to be, right? So that I believe is dharma, right? Now, your act, so dharma gives you your pattern. Dharma defines, what's your social order is. Now your act upon it, your effort, your consistency, all of that comes in your karma, right? Now, of course, there are days when I don't wake up at 6, right? There are days I do not follow the pattern. There are days when I don't feel like doing anything, right? So that's the process of knowing what your dharma is and doing the karma day by day consistently is what the definition is. And it could be in any sphere. It need not be that, like the Mahabharata times you have to go out for wars and everything. That itself is not just the karma. Even if you're going out and earning for your family and then coming back and still spending time with them for the livelihood, better livelihood of everybody, that itself is a beautiful karma, right? That itself is a service that you have towards your family, right? So I believe the definitions definitely change by the yoke, but yeah, the terms do still stand true.
Amazing, amazing. You know, the place or the generation we are in, it's evolving very fast today,
Yep.
and access to technology is easy. Probably people born within 90 to 2000, they are the ones who have seen the transitions happening. But most of the
Yeah.
kids who have been born after 2008 or 2005, they've been born with mobile in their hands rather than
Mhm.
talking about silver spoon in their mouth. They've been born with mobiles in their hands. There nothing is they don't do anything without the mobiles. Now, how can you know the content be moderated to a point where these
Hmm.
teachings of dharma, purpose, finding that right purpose, be ingrained at the very start? Because if I remember
Hmm.
correctly, and I know, if my knowledge is serving me well, when we are talking about Mahabharata or Ramayana days,
Hmm.
the starting age of the children were about going to Gurukul, away from
Hmm.
home,
Yeah.
learning about dharma and what all. So depending on the caste they were in, accordingly they were sent to different gurukuls, and they were taught different scriptures that have to be part of their whole life. But today nothing of that sort happens. It's all the same
Hmm.
teaching being given to each and every kid.
Yeah.
and it's all just ABCD and what just simple English is being taught. Nobody talks about Mahabharata,
Hmm.
and even if they come as part of the syllabus, they are just like a side subject. Nobody really gets into the depth of it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
True. So there are two ways, I can answer this. First is that while even before, coming in alignment with spirituality, I knew about these things. I knew there's a Lord Ram, there's Sita. We do Navratri, no forms of Durga and everything. But the perception, the symbolism, and the relevance that it has for today, it came all when, I was aligned within myself, right? So there's also an inner journey that we take. So you may watch n number of content, you can read the Gita, you can read the Purans and everything, and still, it may not bring you to the point where you should be until unless you are aligned internally. That inner, that center, that core has to be in alignment with the frequency of the universe for you to actually accept and understand the truth as the form of truth without going into the direction, oh, why Lord Ram banished her own wife, why did he kill Ravan, and going into those kind of debates and everything, just understanding the truth for the truth's sake, right? From the point of view that most of these things are, you can also take them as stories, you can take them as myths, you can take them as your deities, you can take them as anything, but the end purpose is for you to derive lesson that is important and relevant for you for today's age and implement that, right? Nobody is asking you to judge that. Nobody is asking you to debate on that, right? So that level of, that center, being that centered within yourself before you start delving into all these, stories and mythology is extremely important. And I really believe it's everybody's calling. My mother keeps on saying that because from 2020 we have been watching so many serials I've watched so far. So she watches with me and she always says that she these serials should be shown even in schools, in colleges, right? Because in a way they are sort of like the OTT version of your epics and Gita for somebody who cannot read. They can watch this dramatized version with songs and everything, characters and everything. uh, at the same time, so I keep on also telling her that, while these can be shown, but the point is that if people are still stuck on drama, that okay, this happened, they fought, they died, and all of that, if they don't take the perception out, because even then, the perception is for you to take. It's for you to perceive, it's for you to understand, then contemplate and, rethink why that happened. Because we have to understand that everything has happened or will happen, has been the best, right? Because universe cannot go wrong. The precision, the you see it from science point of view, you see it from mythology, spirituality, whatever point of view, universe cannot go wrong, right? If everything happened for the good, then you have to just contemplate why it happened. What was the core reasoning? What lessons can you derive from it? Can you actually put yourself in those shoes and think that what they must have gone through, right? And that's the beauty about these stories, that they are relevant across you. We know that even today women are banished. Even today there are questions being put upon. Even today everybody is going through that dilemma whether to prioritize their work or their family, right? Those struggles, even during Ram Rajya or Mahabharata, those struggles are even today. They might not be at that grandeur level, right, the kings and all of that, but at the core emotional level they are still relevant today, right? So if we can see from the point of view that how it's relevant, what lessons can we derive from it, that'll be good, right? But as a start, I would say that if it's the easiest way to start is to watch these TV series as the OTT, because we are used to having those screens in our hand all the time. If that's the way, then let's do it, right? Because that was my journey. I was never into reading and everything, but for me, it was watching these serials. That was my journey. And I believe that if my calling had been that I got the sight to actually perceive, understand it to a better level, and that's where I am, right? But it could be a good starting point.
Wow. You talked about the moral compass, at the start of the conversation. We have seen, be it Draupadi in Mahabharata or, Sita in Ramayana, they have been the moral compass of the whole epic that has been delivered to us. And somewhere or the other, they also played the role of silent strategists. So,
Hmm.
how do you map these roles in today's modern world dynamics? How do you find that happening today?
So I've read a bit and watched a bit about each and every yug. I've seen the beautiful women, the amazing, kings, the queens, and I've seen and read the stories, right? But what I've realized is that there's a common thread across, right? The core never changes. So even today, in your household, you can see that the mother, even just with her eye gestures, she can, make her son or her daughter just step back, do not go outside and everything. With just an eye gesture, she can command the husband to do certain things, right? She doesn't even have to use words, right? So that's the kind of command. And even for most of the time when somebody goes out and earns and everything, they always prefer to keep their money with the woman of the house, because they know that she has that moral compass to not splurge it, to use it mindfully and for the right reasons that is good for the entire house, right? So those kind of things that you still see, they are absolutely 100% a silent strategist. They don't have to be so loud, even have to use the words. With just gestures and the actions, they'll still be able to communicate what they have to. And at the same time, they have that moral compass to think about the entire family, even sometimes above self, right? So those things still stand, is what I feel. Yeah.
I agree with you. And there's often a saying, in Indian households that, and I'm not sure where it started, but I have often heard a lot of people say that a woman can make or break a home. So,
Hmm.
from that perspective, playing that either a constructive strategist or a destructive strategist, I would like to, link it and get your opinion, Gitika, on a point where today I believe a lot of women are in a race of being superior to men when they're already superior to men. Like there
Hmm.
has been said across a lot of podcasts already, and by some of the leading content creators, women have the power to reproduce the world. Nobody else has.
Hmm. Hmm.
Why is such a race that we are seeing in today's generation, probably after
Hmm.
2010, that everything has to be in a manner where we have feminazi, feminism coming into picture.
Hmm.
A lot
Hmm.
of these concepts, where they started, they have actually lost the true meaning and have gone to something very different, structure altogether. So, what are your, if you can correlate from the past, these epics time and today's, what are the correlation we can see?
So I would say that definitely it's, women or men are different, right? There's the equality, all those conversations are definitely there because uh, either some of the tasks have been belittled, or there have been stereotypes that one can do one task better than the other, because of which the entire parity, all these conversations and doctrines arise. But at the core of it, they are different, and they have been different for the longest of the times, right? What is what has changed is, if you go in the past, uh, we are coming from the times of Swayamvar. They Women even dictated the kind of man or the kind of family they want to go into,
Yeah.
right? We are also coming from the times of that we have heard the stories where, be it your Parvati or Lakshmi or, Saraswati, taking the reincarnations and deciding which families to take birth into,
Yeah.
right? They have descended as blessings, right? So currently I'm watching Vaishno Devi serial, right, where she has the king Ratnakar has actually been wanting to have a devi in his house, and she prayed he prayed the family prayed a lot, and they finally got a devi born, right? So we have treated them and respected them as devis, and that's why you will hear that each time you'll hear Lakshmi Narayan, Radha Krishna, even the sons, Parvati Nandan or Yashoda Nandan, right? So
Yeah.
women have always been put to that level, which is absolutely what they deserve, because as we talked about, the moral compass, the silent strategist, this does not take away any sort of respect or importance of a man in the house, right? There's equal importance and there's equal space for both of them, right? if
Yeah.
if the way we need Lakshmi, we also need Narayan, we need Shakti, we need Shiv, right? We need the duality, and we need also at the same time the unison of both of them for the creation to be the way it is, right? That concept, I believe, is lost. So, the entire ideology of these women being treated as devis, so that's not happening, which it's very sad at the core, because that's how it was supposed to be. You pick up any Puran, any reading or any serial or whatsoever, uh, be it Shiv, be it they say that without Shakti, Shiv is Shav, right? So that importance of a Devi has always been there, because Devi is the nurturer, she gives birth. We are, be it your Adi Shakti Khelo or Mahakali, we are coming out of a womb. The entire world is coming out of a womb, right?
Yeah.
So they have to be put to that pedestal. So that is not happening. Point one. Point two is that obviously because of the surroundings and the that led to creation of stereotypes and everything, you hear something and based on sometimes the words are also twisted, things are also twisted, the perceptions are not formed right, which has led to a lot of friction, right? And which has led to a very frozen layer of stereotype in the minds of most. Even if you accept it or don't accept it, it's there because of our upbringing, surrounding, and the way everything is, right? So that's something which is very different in this yug, and the solution, I really feel, if everybody again goes back to the core, aligns themselves with spirituality, understands the meaning of, Shiv, Shakti, understand the meaning of everything at the core, then these duality will not exist, right?
Mhm.
So once that is there, then only most of these stereotypes can be cleared, because until then, some way or the other, they will always creep in.
We have been seeing a lot of women leaders coming in picture, be it Indra Nui, Falguni Nair, Vinita Luthra, Vandana Luthra, the founder of VLCC. And again, we also have our Honorable Finance Prime Minister, Nirmala Sitaraman. Even today, the president the current Indian president is also a female out there. So, but can you help us understand some of the biggest challenges the female
Hmm.
leaders face, the women leaders face, which were there in the older times and are
Hmm.
still relevant in today's modern world?
See, it was, it's always been like, बोलते हैं ना कि उंगली तो औरत पे ही उठती है, right? Which we have seen in the past also. Be it your Ram Rajya, be it Mahabharata, right? I would give it a different perception. I would say that, with great responsibility, even the more burden comes on you, because they are responsible for creation, they are responsible for nurturing, they are responsible for holding everything together, right? A backbone, the pillar, not just of the family, of the entire economy, Right. With that kind of responsibility, obviously there's there'll be taunts, some will like the ways, some will not. There'll be, fingers pointing, there'll be things being said. So that has been common. It has been in the past, it is still happening today. There, at that time it was for the kingdoms and wars. Today it is happening in the life of your corporate or within your household, right? So some of the challenges I feel are at the core still the same. What has worsened, right? No matter what, at those point of the time, women, as we mentioned, right, women were still treated as devis. They were still given that respect. With obviously there were 10-20% of the society that did not follow that doctrine, but most of them did. Now that those numbers have reversed, it would you will find just 10-20% treating them as devis and rest not, right? Which is even worse, and which I feel has increased the amount of challenges, because that layer that there's a lot of noise now, right? Earlier, when probably during the time of Ram Rajya, when probably there was just one washerman who was pointing fingers at Mata Sita. Today, it's actually the entire Praja. Probably one man is standing defending her, right? That has reversed, which is extremely sad. But at the same time, we are in Kali Yuga, so it is expected. Let's hope the Satyug comes again very soon.
Even I'm waiting for that. A lot of things about Kali Yuga I also don't like. You talked about women being the center point and holding
Hmm.
everything, like the center of gravity for each and everything around her. But what's holding her together?
Hmm.
So that's my point. I want to understand. Women holds everything together, but what is holding her together? She is also a human. She also needs
Hmm.
her own, space, her own solitude, where
Hmm.
she can be herself. She cannot always be playing the role of a mother, a sister, or a daughter, or a wife.
Hmm.
So, what's holding her together?
I would say universe, but that'll be an extremely superficial answer. So let me break it down a bit. Um, see, if I, relate it with spirituality a bit, right? So we know that the Prakriti, which has the five elements, your air, fire, space, earth, and water, right? So that makes up your entire body. No matter a man or a woman, you are made with the five elements of nature, which is Prakriti, right? Which is that feminine energy. Now, I would say that I would talk about from the core of what's holding everybody together. If you are aligned with that Prakriti yourself, right? What you'll see, not trying, I'm finding it difficult to answer because I don't want to come it off as a stereotype, but I'm just putting it point from the point of generalization, right? What
Mhm.
you will see is that most of the women today, they are extremely attuned to nature, right? There'll be few men as well. Again, not coming from the point of view from stereotype, but whether it's about having plants at home, taking care of those plants, pruning them, talking to them, right? They're also extremely attracted towards the water bodies. They prefer the sun. They prefer the entire elements of nature. uh, for some way, while they are everybody is made of those five elements of nature, I believe it's a woman who embodies that perfectly, right? Whether it's your earth, whether it's your air, water, and anything, right? So that's something I feel it's what holds them together, what gives them strength to do whatever comes their way, set it aside. Again, some of those qualities are coming from water. If nadi flows from down from the mountains, it has to let every rock pass by to actually come to the ocean, to meet the ocean, and then come to the households and everything, right? So these characteristic traits are coming from the nature. which is across men and women, but I really feel a woman embodies it better, which is what holds it together for her.
Well, that's a great answer. Gitika, help me understand. We talked about whatever is happening to the best of its level that it is supposed to.
Hmm.
You also talked about, like one of the Mahabharata saying is, "Karm ki eja, phal ki ichha mat kar."
Yeah.
Now, that in a nutshell is about detaching from the result.
Yep.
How is it relevant in today's time?
Hmm. Um, Extremely, I would say, because so Pulkit, I read about these stories about how young founders are facing heart attacks. Whenever I go to LinkedIn, I sense that sense of tension across corporates, startups, and everything, right? And that's entirely because everybody is extremely attached to the outcome of what they are building, that they are not enjoying the process or the journey of learning, of innovation, of growth of the team together, right? It's the karma yoga, as it is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, which is like, so there's a karma and there's a kriya, right? Kriya is a task that against which you expect a reward, right? Or you do it just mundanely without giving it a thought because you have been asked to do that task, right? A karm is again a task, but it is not attached with any outcome, and it is done with full attention in complete mind presence, right? You are so if, for example, if I'm extremely passionate about a startup, if let's say I've seen a lot of bakers starting up a brand of their own, and they are so passionate about baking that they just love the process of it, right? And it's through that love and everything, and the entire end goal is just to feed the other person, no matter if that person pays, does not pay, or anything. And they are so into it, they just enjoy the process, and you will always see them happy while they are baking, right? And that's the point of view of that you are so engrossed in the present moment that you do not have any attachment to what may or may not happen in the future, right? It may actually happen the best. You may get to IPO, you may get to the stage of acquisition and everything, but that stress of what may or may not happen, that uncertainty, the burden of that uncertainty is so much in the present that you are neither enjoying the present nor actually making the best of the process for the team, for the product, for everything, right? Which is extremely sad. So the karma yoga or the detachment of outcome was not for the sake of it, okay, just leave everything and go do whatever. It was for the good of us, that we live in the present. And if we live in the present, then we give 100% everything to what we are doing. And if we do that, then outcome has to be good, right? So, and we, the best is that during that process we are not ruining our mind peace, we are not going through that stress, our health is good and everything. So at the end of the journey, when you have reached the destination, you have lived a beautiful process, you have gotten a happy team, you still have your health, and you have the profits, right? So that was the entire point of detaching yourself today.
But help me understand, Gitika, being a founder myself,
Hmm.
lot of this chaos that surrounds an entrepreneur or a leader out there,
Hmm.
it's often instilled by the surroundings, not
Hmm.
himself
Yep.
or herself.
Yep.
So, okay, we are as an passionate, entrepreneur or
Hmm.
passionate leader, we are enjoying the journey. But
Hmm.
now, at the end of the month, we know we have
Hmm.
salaries to pay, we have bills to clear. At the end of
Hmm.
the quarter, we have a board sitting on our head asking for the results and targets to be achieved.
Hmm.
How do we detach from the end result and
Yeah.
enjoy the journey in today's time then?
Yeah. Um, See, there are a couple of points. I'll answer it from spirituality lens later, but let me answer from the realistic, more practical point of view. So, and this again is mentioned in the Karma Yoga as well, that you give your 100%, right? You continue to get up on the daily basis, do what you are supposed to do, the tasks that you have, the clients that you have to serve, the team that you have to keep engaged. You do whatever you do 100% for the next 30 days on the consistent basis, right? Now, on the 31st of the month, when, let's say you haven't achieved that particular result, it's your responsibility, A, to still give a pat on your back for keeping at it consistently and for doing the efforts. If this it did not happen in month one, it may happen in month two, right? So that self morale is point one. Point two, then also giving that morale to your stakeholders, be it your employees, be it your investors, be it your customers, or anyone, right? So, what I'm talking about is two things. So, one is working at it 100% consistently, and then not, losing that self morale and the transparent communication, right? Because what may happen is that at the 31st you may think that, okay, I'll just push the dates of my board meeting. I will tell them that it's done, there was some error, or I'll just, play around the words or something like that. No, that open communication is important and it will be appreciated. If I still, and most of the clients, if I still tell them that, this is what I've done for you, this is what I've tried to achieve, these are the experiments that I've run, and this is the result we have achieved so far, but it's probable to get to 2x 3x in next 3 months. That is appreciated because you have actually taken effort to do a number of things, to try different experiments, do it consistently, and the best part is to do it as an extended team of that client, right? So that's more important, consistent work, and then at the end of the day, don't lose morale and have an open communication with whichever stakeholder is next to you. From the spirituality point of view, I would say that it is also important, and that goes from the morale point of view, how not to lose the morale. It's important to be aligned within yourself. Right. And I would say that everybody in today's day and age should definitely do, practice meditation in some way or form. It's not like just sit by yourself without any screens, without any technology, without Wi-Fi around, right? And just observe even the minutest of the things. And Japanese follow these, right? They have this concept of slow living where if I'm looking at the sky, I'll just keep on looking at the sky, doing nothing else. If I'm looking at a flower or anything, I'll just keep on looking at that, nothing else. What that point is doing is, A, it is increasing your focus, your observation, and everything. And at the same time, it is clearing all the clutter out, right? It is aligning you center. That is extremely important because as you have mentioned that there's a lot of noise, there's everywhere around, you will get calls, you will get messages, emails, everybody is just shouting at you, right? So it's all a splash. But at the same time, if you are centered, right, if you would have heard about the seven chakras, right, so which actually runs at the center of your spine. If you are centered, then no matter what's happening, you will not lose your calm. And if you will not lose your calm, you will make sure your team is also aligned, and you will make sure your clients are still with you in the month two as well, right? So I hope I've been able to answer.
Surely, surely. But Gitika, you brought about the point of transparent communication.
Hmm.
Now, might be a little shift from the context, but
Sure.
would like to understand your experience as well because you're also in a sales, role out there. A lot of clients, we as leaders might be communicating. We
Hmm.
as the entrepreneurs or the founders in front of the board might be communicating openly and transparently. But it's not being reciprocated from the other side.
Hmm.
A lot of times, for many salespeople out there, half of their time is just wasted in follow-ups,
Hmm.
probably more than half of the time. Why can't and why is it so difficult for a client to say no today? You don't want
Hmm.
to work with us, that's totally fine. Be upfront about it, say no, and move forward. Let the other person also have a closure out there.
Hmm.
Why do
Yeah.
you want somebody to keep you chasing? And if you have to work, you give them a very valid reason. Okay, probably Pulkit,
Hmm.
I will start working with you after a month. I'm in middle of something. That's also appreciated. At least you're respecting my time.
Hmm.
So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
The mankind is extremely people pleasing, right? We hate to say no. We hate to be the bad guy in somebody else's eyes. Even if I get some calls, so the loan calls and everything, either we don't pick because we know that we will not be able to say yes to that person. So it's better not to pick, not to even answer, right? Because it's very difficult to say no and be in somebody else's bad books. While I understand the other side of it that you're, because you have spent the time, you have given, so you deserve an answer. And sometimes that again, so it's an outcome you're attaching yourself to. That if I've given it some time, that I deserve at least an answer, whether it's a yes or a no, right? Which is what it's doing is it's causing some frustration after 5 6. I've even done 30, 40, 50 follow-ups probably sometimes. You may get frustrated at one point of the time, right? So there are two sides. The other person hates to say no, and you are attaching yourself to the outcome, which is why you are getting stressed. So the easiest way, obviously you can't change somebody else, you can change yourself.
Yeah.
Stop being attached to the outcome. That's the best way, because one thing that I do is that in the most extreme of the situations where I'm extremely frustrated and everything, I just smile. And it might be a fake smile for the first few seconds, but eventually it's a real smile, right? It's a very understated. A smile is an extremely understated thing, but it has a beautiful effect, right? So, yep, that's what I'll say.
That's true. Um, if I'm not wrong, the idea of detachment is very core to the Buddhism, out there. So, if Lord Buddha was to give out of his all the teachings,
Hmm.
top three advice to the world leaders today, what would be
Hmm.
those?
So I've read a bit about Buddhism. I've seen a very beautiful serial as well. So it was, so this man was born a king, right? He had all the worldly pleasures at the bottom of his feet, everything available. Yet he wasn't happy. He was like, he was always thinking about why others are suffering, why there's death, why there's suffering, why there's remorse, right? And he couldn't stop but, solve that entire mystery. So he went out to discover why there's entire suffering and everything. And after that, so the entire journey of the tapasya, understanding, fighting with the inner struggles and everything, what he came together with is the four simple truths. So, yes, there is suffering. First thing is to accept, yes, there's suffering because we are living in this life, we have to experience everything. So, there's suffering. The second thing, why there is suffering? Because we are always thinking about self. We have the desires, we have the cravings. Again, going to the karmyo, we are always attached to the outcome rather than the karma itself, right? So, what can you simply do? Just stop thinking about self, right? Stop attaching yourself to any outcome whatsoever. Start living in the present, right? And if this seems extremely difficult, then he has listed down eight, no, eight path that you can follow where your right view, right intention, right effort, and everything of which could also be your dharma, which could be your mode of conduct as well, right? Now, coming from this learning in his journey of life, if he would have to given three lessons to the leaders today. So I guess the first would be understand that self is delusional. Don't think about self too much. That also goes to detach yourself from outcomes, or think about you be client first or team first or solution first, right? That would be the first thing. The second thing would be that uh, you know have your own path. Do not be prejudiced by the social conduct or what others have done in the past. So sometimes it's always like, if a startup has taken up a journey, they have raised up a seed round at a particular stage, hired up a team at a particular point, then you try to replicate that journey thinking that that's probably the success mantra. Right. So I would say he would probably say that do not follow a set path. Each and everyone, has a different journey. So find your own moral conduct, find your own path, and follow that. That would be the second thing that I feel he would say. And the third, most important thing would be coming from his noble truths is accept everything at the surface. There's loss, there's failure, it's failure, it's okay, right? So having that sense of acceptance is extremely important. So I feel those would be the three things.
Amazing. We talked about Lord, Buddha right now.
Hmm.
Like to bring in the biggest strategist, we have had in the ages, Lord Krishna out here.
Hmm.
So his most of the teachings to, or the preaching that he gave during Mahabharata
Hmm.
were very indirect. They were not very
Hmm.
straightforward for a layman to understand or to
Hmm.
decode and decipher what exactly he meant to say.
Yeah.
How can leaders of today, align those learning or teachings in their day-to-day conduct?
So see one, and it was the Krishna avatar was after Ram avatar, right? And it was Ram, the way a man should be, Purushottam Ram, सबसे उत्तम पुरुष, right? With his own ethics, going by the book and everything. The Krishna was a different avatar altogether, with a lot of colors, with a lot of agility, with a lot of tactics. We have heard the stories of, despite picking any shastra or anything and just being a charioteer in the Mahabharata war, he has been a commendable supporter to the Pandavas, right? Whether it was at one point of the time, even creating an illusion of that sun has set with his Sudarshan Chakra, creating that illusion that sun has set, right? All these things. So he never played by the book. He was extremely agile, which is what actually one of the second thing that we have learned from Buddha also, that do not follow any conduct that you feel might be true. If you feel that there's a path for your own, do that. Good enough. So that's what we learn from Krishna today, that be extremely agile and be fluid. At the same time, he always fought for dharma, right? Even the youth, the entire youth was dharma youth. That's what we call, right? And he was a counselor to Yudhishthir, who was Dharmaraj, right? So there are certain ethics, certain moral conduct, which are your core. But at the same time, your tactics and strategies could be agile, based on how the opponent is playing the game, or based on how surroundings are shaping up and everything. That can be extremely fluid and agile. So he never believed in the concept of giving promises, or the concept of always following one path. He always did what he felt was right to save dharma. That's extremely important for leaders today, to be adaptable, to be agile. It's okay to shape the narrative. It's okay to probably launch a different feature or launch the same product differently in the market, right? You have to do those things because depending upon how the market is also reacting, you have to, counter propose what you have. So that's something that a lot of people, a lot of leaders can take from Krishna, to be adaptable and agile depending upon the situations and customer feedback.
Wow. But how do you balance integrity while being agile out there?
So integrity says that I don't have to lie, right? I can be open with my client, with my customers, that we tried a number of things. It did not work. We are now shifting our plan to doing this now, because we have the projections that this will do this percentage of ROI for you, right? So I guess that integrity and agile can go hand in hand, as long as you are honest with yourself, with your team, and with your clients, right? So the core values, whichever is your mode of conduct, so that's something which is aligned. Then the paths can be a number of the paths, right? Because agility is defining just the path, but the your integrity is your moral compass, right? So which is something which is core to you.
Can you talk about ego being the reason for downfall many, like for Duryodhana
Hmm.
or for Ravana? It was the ego being the,
Yep.
like Ravana was the biggest worshipper of Lord Shiva out there
Hmm.
and a really learned person.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but still his ego got the best of him.
Yeah.
So how ego can be the reason for downfall, and what are the parameters that leaders today should be wary of when going out there, and instead of coming from the place of ego, they come from the place of humility or humbleness.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And rightly mentioned that while Ravan was a bhakt himself, but at the same time he was an egoistic man, which was the only reason in my eyes for his downfall. And the signs of that is, I would say, that somebody who starts putting self above everybody else, above the team, above the client, above the product also sometimes, right? So that's an early sign of somebody getting caught by ego. Um, what I feel is that, and even when you look at Ravan, he was given so many advice by, so Vibhishan was his counsel. So he was given advice by that. Even in Mahabharata times, Duryodhan was given advice by, Bhishma Pitama, Vidur. So many people were giving counsel. But they did what they felt like doing, and that's an early sign. If the leader or the founder or the manager thinks that they are always right, discrediting what others have to say, and sometimes not even hearing what they are saying, that's something I would feel is an early sign. Now, in opposite to that, I'll tell you a story. So there was a youth that, in guidance of Krishna, Bhim won against Jarasandh. So Jarasandh was a very strong warrior that Pandavas wanted to, get rid of from their way of the Dharma youth. And Bhim won that youth in guidance of Krishna. Bhim got all the credit. Krishna did not mind, right? And he himself gave Bhim the credit of fighting the youth. But it was actually the Krishna's strategy was the only reason Bhim won it. Obviously, his strength and everything. But Krishna told that, you have to tear him apart and throw the body parts in different directions. That's how you'll be able to beat him. So, but he never took the credit. And that's the sign of an amazing leader, of the silent leader who's always behind their team in the times of, acknowledgement, success, and everything, but in front of them when there's failure. When youth has been declared, and then the council is in front to make sure they are first strategizing and everything. That's the biggest sign. And if I feel that if your clients, your team, everybody around you is leaving you, at that point it's a great stoppage, that you sit, assess what is going wrong. Probably you are taken hit by the ego, and probably you are not giving the credit what others deserve, and that something is, what is breaking down the situation for you. So that I feel is extremely important for leaders of today to self-assess.
But Gitika, on a very different note altogether,
Hmm.
to the same scenario.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that ego is not listening to others at point. That's one of the scenarios
Hmm.
we're looking at. For an entrepreneur who, or for somebody who is walking the untrodden path out there,
Hmm.
there will be a lot of voices saying that don't walk that path,
Hmm.
don't trod it. Now,
Hmm.
how do you distinguish between not being egoistic, but and walking the path you believe in? So
Hmm.
how do you really bring that difference in your own understanding between the ego
Hmm.
and your belief?
Hmm.
How do you
Hmm.
really differentiate the two?
Yeah. So, Pulkit, I would say not listening to the noise around of people who are saying that you will not be able to make it is self-respect and giving importance to self, versus an ego would be some, a, a team session where you have come together to actually strategize and brainstorm on the next feature launch, where while the meeting heading reads brainstorming session, but the leader or the manager comes and dictates, this is what I've thought through, you will do this, you will do this, you will do this, and you will do this, that's it. That is ego. Without even, it's your team, it's your extended team, your extended family, without giving them the respect to hearing their opinion, without giving them even the respect of understanding whether they want to do this way or not, whether they want to do this task or not, just um, you know dictating everything, that dictatorship at the level of your team, that I believe is ego, where you're prioritizing self and in your mind thinking that probably whatever they will say anyway will not work out. And in the end, I only have to decide everything. So why not I just do it in the beginning itself? Right? So that is the ego layer.
You have made it so simple, which is often point of anxiety for many.
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. So, Gitika, before we wrap up our episode for today, any final thoughts you would like to share with our listeners?
It was fun having this conversation. It was because these conversations are also self-reflecting. While I'm talking, I'm also channelizing what kind of thoughts are coming in my head, how I should articulate them, and then share it across. So it was definitely fun. I would say that as the parting thoughts, I would definitely say it's. I hope that more and more people align within themselves. They understand the true within core. Uh, they perceive more, right? Be it these stories, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, or they understand that everything around us is a form of energy, whether you see it from the point of view of string theory or you see it from the point of view of chakras or anything, right? And it's important that we always send off the positive energy, right? The reciprocation will always vibrate back the positive atoms only if we are radiating the positivity, right? For the ripples to have the certain set of frequency, the source has to have that sort of frequency first, right? So which is what I believe is important. I just wish everybody positivity, a lot of smiles, and exploring the mysterious world that we have around. Everybody is always a student here. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Wow, what a journey through wisdom, history, and leadership. Thanks for Gitika, for bringing these powerful insights to us today. And for those of you tuning in, if today's discussion sparked any thoughts or resonated with a personal challenge, we invite you to submit your worries, stress triggers, or thoughts. Remember, we also have an anonymous mental health platform where you can come and vent out all your worries or stress issues, and it's anonymous. The link would be in the description below, and we will also be sharing Gitika's, LinkedIn ID where you can reach out to her if you have any more points to discuss with her. Until then, please stay tuned and remember, we are listening.